We are observing you crossing the 260 of Lima at 31 miles west. Level is 10,700. Velocity is approximately 280.
I've got it! I've got it!
Climb, Aero Crew 603.
Listen, turn over!
$0.02 of American money brought down a $75 million aircraft and killed 70 people.
This kind of a problem that they faced that night was probably one of 10 over the last 20 or 30 years.
You never lose hope immediately. You know, it takes time for you to get to that point that you will accept the fact that there's no people that got out of their life.
We're gonna turn over!
Our companies do business in South America. We export, and every so often we will go to see our clients. And on this trip, Kenny and Abraham went to see some clients in Peru and in Chile. I had a very good relationship with both of them. With my brother-in-law, of course, we were like brothers. I love the guy. He married my only sister, so we had a great relationship.
Lima Tower, Aero Peru
603, runway 15, ready for takeoff. Aero Peru 603, use noise abatement.
Wind calm, ready for takeoff on runway 15.
1515, transponder.
Flaps 15, takeoff briefing complete.
Takeoff 41.
See how accurate we are? Not even Swiss.
Rolling.
Time check.
Let's go. Power sets.
Power set.
80 knots.
Check.
V1, rotate. V2.
Gear up.
All right. V2 plus 10.
The altimeters are stuck. The altimeters have stuck.
Yeah,
All of them.
this is really new. Keep V2 plus 10.
The speed.
Eh?
The speed.
What's going on? We're not climbing.
No, I am climbing, but the speed.
Hold it. Maintain speed.
Aero Peru 603, 119.7.
603.
We are descending.
Rudder ratio.
That's strange. Turn to the right.
They got a rudder ratio warning, which consists of an amber light that would come flashing on there with a little beeping horn and a message on this engine crew alerting system saying rudder ratio. That's just a system that reduces the amount of rudder the airplane has that can be used as the airplane accelerates and goes faster and faster. Because it was sensing wrong or improper information, it sensed a fault, so it gave a warning to the crew.
Climb, 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 climb.
I am.
Climb. You're going down, David.
I am up, but the speed.
Yeah, but it's stuck. Mach trim, rudder ratio. Climb, 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 climb. Set heading 100. Well, now you're... It's okay on this heading.
Set the climb thrust. Center autopilot in command. There is no command. But the speed is better now.
Yeah, but this damn rudder ratio.
Mach trim, Mach trim.
Let's go to basic instruments. Everything's going to hell.
Mach speed trim is a system that trims the airplane. It changes the angle of the horizontal stabilizer in the back end of the airplane, and that has to be changed as the airplane accelerates to a higher speed. It was getting false indications, so they got a warning that they had an overspeed, which of course they didn't. That warning would consist of, again, the master caution and a master warning, which is a red light associated with an oral warning as well.
Lima Tower, Aero Peru 603.
We are in an emergency.
Aero Peru 603, Lima.
We are declaring an emergency.
We have no basic instruments, no altimeter, no airspeed indicator. Declaring emergency.
Receive altitude.
We don't have. We're up to 1,000 feet, approximately 1,700.
603.
Confirm if possible if you can change your frequency to 119.7 to make sure you can receive radar instructions.
Change to 119.7.
Auto throttle. Disconnected by itself.
That's in maintenance, move everything.
What have they done? I'll take the controls now.
Okay, you have control. Lima, 603.
Aero Peru
603, Lima.
We request vectors for ILS.
Runway 15.
Not yet. Let's get stabilized.
Correct. We suggest
The right turn heading of 330.
Turning right, course 330.
Affirmative, maintain present altitude.
What level do we have? We have 4,000 feet. Can you confirm for us?
Correct, maintain 4,000.
We are maintaining 4,000.
Affirmative.
Auto throttle disconnect.
Really, we don't have any control.
We don't have any control, not even the basics.
Let's see. Check everything.
The airplane was controllable, but you first have to diagnose what's wrong. And it's very easy from 20/20 hindsight, sitting here in a chair on a nice sunny day, to say, this is what he should have done. But in the cold, dark night with bells and whistles going off, it's very difficult to analyze conflicting information that you're getting. This kind of a problem that they faced that night was probably one of 10 over the last 20 or 30 years that has been similar to this.
Four 4,000 feet.
We're flying without airspeed. Can't be. Let's see. It's responding.
Airspeed is 0. All speeds. Right. Can you give us the airspeed, please, if you have us on the radar?
Yes, affirmative. As of 10 seconds,
It seems that you're climbing at level 6,000 at 22 miles south on heading 195.
Okay, we have that. We are on heading 190, and we have
7,000 feet on the altimeter.
Yes, correct. You're now reaching 7,000.
The traffic controller would try to help the pilot, but he was receiving the wrong information on altitude. He was receiving a wrong indication from the captain's altimeter.
The reason the air traffic control system was transmitting improper altitude readout information to the airplane was because the airplane's altimeter, through the air data computer, would send the indicated altitude that the airplane was experiencing down to the radar unit, and of course it was incorrect, and they would read it off their readout down in the air traffic control center and transmit it back to the pilots, and of course it was incorrect because they were getting incorrect information to begin with.
Avoid large or abrupt radar inputs. If normal left hydraulic system pressure available, left hydraulic system available. Yes, crosswind, do not attempt an auto land. Says left hydraulic system available. Yes, crosswind, do not attempt an auto land.
Aero Peru 603, we are observing you now at level 9,200. What is your heading now?
We're heading level 205.
Affirmative.
You are turning slowly to the right, correct?
No, we are maintaining course to stay away from the coast.
Your distance is 30 miles. Do you want a heading to proceed to the localizer, correct?
Correct.
We're going to suggest course north 360.
360. We have problems here reading the instruments. You're going to have to help me with altitudes and airspeeds
If it is possible.
Okay, received.
Let's go. The approach is set.
Let's try to make a descent on this heading.
It's climbing.
Let's go down to 10,000 feet. Why does the speed go away so fast? Could it be the real speed?
That's what worries me. No, I don't think so. Can you verify our speed, please?
320 is indicated.
We have 350, but
The
no...
engines are on idle, but we keep accelerating and accelerating.
Okay, received.
You can imagine the pilots, they're flying there. They don't have a true indication of the speed. They're obviously trying to fly the airplane and changing the attitude up and down. That in itself will change an indication of airspeed, although it was incorrect.
Both pilots were really confused. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to act. And they did unhuman efforts to save the aircraft. But, I mean, they were really tired and of all the work and all the confusion and all the alarms.
Extend the speed brakes. All three indicators are fine on speed, over speed. Rudder ratio.
Can't be. Nothing's disconnecting.
All engine instruments are okay.
What can our real speed be?
The speed indications are okay.
We are observing you crossing the 260 of Lima at 31 miles west. Level is 10,700. Velocity is approximately 280
over the ground.
Perfect.
Yes, but here we have 350 knots indicated.
Over speed. What? But I have speed brakes.
Let's descend.
Can't be over speed. We're still flying.
They get a stall warning that the airplane is falling out of the sky. At the same time, they got overspeed warning. Impossible to have two contradictory alarms. Either you're stalling or either you're having an overspeed. So that created more confusion. Really, this problem has never happened before. It was a new emergency.
In aviation, you always figure, what's going to kill me? What is the critical thing? Let's take care of that first, and then we'll take care of the other lesser issues later on. When you get a stall warning or when you get an overspeed indication, you need to pay attention to those immediately. In this case, they were getting both a stall warning and an overspeed. Well, which is right?
We request, is there any plane that can take off and rescue us?
Acknowledged. Rescue has been alerted.
Any plane in the area to guide us.
An Aero Peru that may be in the area. Anybody.
No, don't say anything like that.
Yes, because right now we are in a stall.
Aero Peru 603, we have a 707 that is leaving for Putuel. We will advise him.
We are not in a stall. It's a false alarm.
No, we have stick shaker. It has to be.
But even with speed brakes and everything, we're maintaining 9,500 feet. Why aren't we getting the same reading?
When the airplane is slowed up to a point in the air that it can no longer sustain itself in flight, it stalls. The wing stalls or stops flying. There's a warning system built into the airplane that tells the pilots when that's happening. It's known as a stick shaker, along with a voice warning, which we just heard. When the stick shaker goes off because the airplane is slowed down too much, you get a warning like this, where the control column is shaking and vibrating, along with the voice warning saying that the airplane is stalling. And of course, the pilots would go into the aircraft stall recovery procedure at that point.
Aero Peru 603, you are now flying on course 120. We observe you to be at level 10,000. Your speed is approximately 220 and a distance from Lima of 33 miles to the northwest. The 707 will be ready in 15 minutes to fly west to help you.
To have another aircraft come alongside and formate, or you formate on it, would have been one way of recovering from this abnormal situation. However, we must remember that the flight was at night and darkness. The pilots may or may not have had any formation flying training, but that would have been one way to resolve the problem quite well, actually.
What's happening?
Too low terrain. We have the terrain alarm. We have the terrain alarm.
Received according to the scope and indicated.
At a flight level of 10,000 over the sea, heading a northwest course of 300.
We have the terrain alarm and we're supposed to be at 10,000 feet. According to the monitor, you have 105.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
There is no checklist for if you have these 7 or 8 warnings going off, which they did, and they couldn't shut them off. It's a very rattling experience. I could play that tape for you, and you hear those things: whoop whoop, pull up, terrain, terrain, and all of these things going off, and the stick shaker. Brrr. It's a very unnerving environment.
All the computers are going crazy here.
Too low, terrain.
There's a system on board the aircraft called the ground proximity warning system, and it senses a rate of descent in the airplane. The irony of the situation was they were getting warnings from that saying too low, terrain, terrain, too low. That probably, in all probability, was a true warning. But because they'd been subjected to so many warnings and ongoing false warnings, horns, bells, and whistles, that they didn't really, I don't think, react to that too seriously.
Aero Peru 603.
We observe you initiating the left turn to the west.
I don't understand you.
We observe you turning to the left, circling to the west.
Affirmative. We are heading 250, but we are going out towards sea because of the low terrain alarm.
Yes, affirmative. We observe you 42 miles, flying to the west, course 250.
We are over water, aren't we?
Affirmative. Over the water.
You are 42 miles to the west.
Are we going down now?
We have 370 knots. Are we descending now?
We are showing the same speed. You have 200 knots speed approximately.
Too low. Terrain.
Speed 200 knots.
220 ground speed, reducing speed slightly.
Too low. Terrain.
Damn, we're gonna stall right now.
Too low. Terrain.
Let's go up. Let's see. Let's go up here.
Too low. Terrain. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
I want to try to intercept the ILS. I'm trying to descend.
Too low. Terrain.
Lima, Aero Peru 603. We will try to intercept the ILS. Let us know if we are in.
Too low. Terrain.
Received, Airproof 603.
You show now level 9,700.
Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low.
This one's right.
This one's okay too.
Stand by to verify speed. The 707 is about to take off. It is on taxi.
Confirm our speed.
It is very important we do not have any speed indications on board.
Understood. You're starting to turn and we observe your
Ground speed at 270.
Stay there, Eric. 270 is okay.
Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
altitude is 9,700. Your speed is 240.
140 knots, ground speed on the monitor.
How can we be flying at this speed if we're descending with engines on idle?
Terrain.
Give me the altitude, please.
Yes, you are maintaining 9,700 according to the scope, sir.
9,700?
Yes, correct.
What is your indicated altitude? Do you have any visual reference?
9,700, but it is indicating too low terrain. Are you sure you have us on the radar at 50 miles?
Hey, look, with 370, we have
370 what? Do we lower gear?
Aero Peru 603, Lima.
What do we do with the gear?
We're hitting water! Pull it up!
Climb. Climb, Aero Peru 603. If you need to, pull up.
I've got it! I've got it! We're gonna turn over!
Aero Peru 603, Lima. Aero Peru 603, Lima.
Lima to Santiago. 5 minutes after takeoff, the crew informed the tower that they were having an emergency and they requested clearance to return to Lima. During the process, contact with the aircraft was lost at 0110, with the latest position of the aircraft being 50 miles north of the city of Lima.
About 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up and turned on the news channel, and I heard there was a crash, an airplane crash of Aero Peru, but the news mentioned New York to Lima.
Rescue operations are underway by authorities. The aircraft was carrying 61 passengers and 9 crew members.
So I went to the shower and didn't pay a lot of attention. But when I came out, they corrected the news and they said from Lima to Santiago. And I knew in that plane, Kenny and Abraham were flying. The news was very vague, so they mentioned there might be some survivors, and they mentioned that the plane crashed on Pacific Ocean, and they didn't have a lot of news, and the crash was at night. So in my mind, I thought that the plane sort of landed on water, and most people got out.
I was in bed. It was about 4:30 in the morning, and they called me. Your nephew is lost in an airplane. They asked me, how do you feel that your nephew was a co-pilot? My gosh, I feel very bad. But I'm a professional. I have to do a job. I have to comply and complete my duty. So that's what I did. Well, the controller really didn't know. He was just trying to help. So he did all he could to help him. But unfortunately, for him, it was a new emergency too.
They had found the aircraft. It was pretty well documented by radar. The Navy, the Peruvian Navy, had gotten a fix on the flotsam and the wreckage in the ocean. And the only thing left to do was find it on the bottom of the ocean, which they did not have the facilities for. Out that his nephew was the first officer. I suggested that perhaps they should consider removing Captain Fernandez from the investigation because of emotional involvement and what have you. He was very objective, I would say, an excellent investigator, considering that it was, and not a distant nephew, it was his very close relative. He did an outstanding job. I've done in-flight breakups that were spread over 15, 16 miles and maybe 1.5 miles wide, which tells you instantly that just what you know of looking at the wreckage, that this thing didn't hit in one piece. It clearly was disintegrating as it was crashing. But in this case, it was a fairly tight debris field, and so obviously it hit at high speed and was fairly closely knit wreckage pattern.
¿cuál es la altura que indica el avión cuando tiene terrain. Too low terrain. Too low terrain. Too low terrain. Too low terrain.
It was clear to us that they were really experiencing a problem with airspeed and altitude. And the airspeed and altitude indications in the aircraft are strictly a function of what we call the pitot-static system.
Taping was never removed, and when the airplane departed and started to fly, nothing but trapped static sea level air pressure was sensed by those instruments. And in matter of fact, the airplane was climbing up in thinner air, and the information presented on the instruments and to the air data computer was false, which generated just totally non-normal readings.
The inspector who was supposed to quality check his work did not do it. And the supervisor out on the line that night was not there, he was sick, and there was a regular mechanic who was filling that role. He did not see it. And the captain or the pilot, in this case the captain did the pre-flight. They do a walk around looking for just that kind of thing. The captain did the pre-flight that night and he did not detect it either.
A little piece of paper with glue caused an accident. But the paper and the glue are not to blame. Humans are to blame because humans use that tape in the wrong place for the wrong purpose.
The Bergen accident clearly pointed out already that a crew will get confused by these cryptic advisories, rudder ratio, Mach airspeed trim, and not getting a clear indication what the underlying problem is, which is a problem with the air data computer or anything which comes behind it, the pitot tube or the static port. These were facts which were well known to the manufacturer, and so it happened again.
The bulletins and the, let's call it the fruits of the Dominican Republic investigation of Bergen Air had not yet reached Aero Peru at the time this accident occurred. The Peruvian government very correctly made a point of that in their report on the accident, saying that they should have given more impetus to those recommendations to get them out to the industry quicker.
Well, it's very unfortunate, but it comes back to the fact that communication in aviation is sometimes deficient. There is not that high level of exchange of information between different operators, as they are all competitors. They do not exchange certain information, and specifically not the one which is safety related. And that's definitely the case in the Air Peru accident.
9,700, but it is indicating too low terrain. Are you sure you have us on the radar at 50 miles?
Hey, look, the 370, we have
371. We lowered gear.
It's easy to sit here in the 757 cockpit and play the Monday morning quarterback. Having heard the bells and the overspeed warnings, the ground proximity warning, the stall warning, it's very easy to do that and sit here and say what I would have done being an experienced pilot. But to put yourself into the position of those two pilots that night, they were in an extremely difficult situation to fly that airplane and recover from that experience.
I wanted to find them. I really wanted to find them. And one part of me didn't want to find them because there was this fantasy that if I don't find them, maybe they're in an island with a drink and looking at some girls dancing. I can close the chapter. I can go and take them and have them buried, and there'll be a place for the family to go and put some flowers once in a while and say, okay, my brother-in-law's here, or my dad is here, or my husband is here.
Boeing has to foresee the misuse of their product. In other words, a manufacturer of a product is legally liable for the foreseeable misuse of their product if it can be corrected. In other words, Boeing builds the airplane with potential hazard in it. That hazard is that in order to clean the airplane, you have to cover the static port. And if you don't take it off, the airplane can crash.
I wanted them back. And since I couldn't get them back, at least I wanted the wives of the victims to get compensated. How much is that worth? I don't know. I didn't know. Abraham had 3 daughters, and now they don't have a father. So what is the compensation? The best compensation, if can be done, is get them back. Give them life back again. But because that is not possible, then the other possibility is to get a monetary compensation. And then you fight for the best compensation you can get.
One of the reasons is it's very high. It's about maybe 15, 17 feet up in the air. And at night with the flashlight, and this happened to be duct tape, which you're not supposed to use. They specify the tape, and it was duct tape, which is silver. So it would not distinguish itself against the background of the fuselage of the aircraft. So basically 3 or 4 people failed to detect the tape on the aircraft prior to departure.
Lawyers lawyers, you know, sometimes they confuse matters, and they send the guy and ask people questions and ask questions, and the one that stuck the tape was the painter, was the lowest cultured and the one that knew less about what could happen. And the judge resolved that he was the one responsible, and he was in jail.
So that you don't lose the airplane because a maintenance man making $2 an hour down in Peru makes a mistake. It's foreseeable that that kind of a person is going to make a mistake. That's human nature, they're going to make a mistake. And you build your system so you don't lose your $50 million airplane because a maintenance guy makes a simple mistake.
Overspeed, extend the brakes.
Experience has shown that if you don't fly the airplane when you're experiencing an abnormal situation, and they certainly were, you must fly the airplane. Just concentrate on flying the airplane and get the airplane under control, first and foremost.
Are we going down now?
We have 370 knots.
If you don't do that, the airplane's going to bite you, and you're going to end up in more serious situations. So I would fly the airplane, make sure I was able to fly it safely, if only by using the attitude direction indicator and normal power settings that I was familiar with, and then eventually work my way back and get it on the ground.
It always becomes a problem when pilots are reduced to be push-buttonists. The man-machine interface has to work, and has to work as humans are to operate these airplanes. They have to be designed appropriately for the use of a human being. Of course, you can put in all digits and numbers and computer gimmicks, and you can, but still it's man who has to operate and survey it. And I believe a human being should be in charge.
We were able to show that a lot of the people were alive. In a crash like this, a lot of the people would survive the crash and then died of drowning. There was no question in our minds that the people suffered terrible, terrible terror and pain when this happened to them. They were horrified. They were awake. They knew what happened. The designers of these products and the manufacturers of the products know that they have to take safety into account. They have to, of course, they do that because they know it's the right thing to do. But they also know that if they don't do it, there's going to be somebody watching them that's going to investigate it, that's going to find out why it happened, and that they're going to be accountable for what they do wrong. And that if they don't take into consideration safety, they're going to have to pay for it.
Well, the accidents made the aviation industry aware that something simple like a pitot tube or a static port can cause a major incident or even an accident. And even airline pilots were reminded that this is a vital basic thing and it may happen, and this is the way how to prevent it to turn into a catastrophe.
Suddenly you say that guy doesn't exist anymore. It's very hard to swallow that. It's very hard to understand, and it took me a long time to accept. So the memory is still there, and it will be there for a long time. I'm not going to let go. I don't want to let go.